Introduce yourself.
Oh, that's right. Thank you.
And what's up, everybody? I'm Sean. I'm in Charlotte, North Carolina. I got my books over there, my movies over there, Baby Groot's up there. Brad's not here today, but I'm joined by two very old friends. One I haven't seen in what seems like a million years. It's like a lifetime ago. It's really crazy, but I'm so glad that he joined us. You guys will love him. And fun fact, I played soccer with his wife in second grade. And then the other one, he's a veteran of the show. You guys can go ahead and introduce yourselves. Brian, why don't you go first?
My name is Professor Sorensen, and I am in my library today, and I got myself a nice glass of coffee with my that I got actually from Sean recently. Thank you again, Sean, for the awesome mug.
Happy
Not
birthday.
the coffee, because I got that, but yeah. But yeah, and then over here we got, like Sean said, old friend of mine as well, Mr. Andrea Cola.
Hey. Hey, everybody. Brian, is that like a Texas star? You
Wrong state.
no.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah, I mean,
nonsense.
Come
No. By the way, folks, I am now in Texas. No, it's still Litchfield, but New Hampshire. But maybe
Yeah.
right about here.
yeah, exactly. Hi, everybody. I'm Matt. As Sean said, I guess you guys played soccer together. I don't know. I
Oh,
didn't know.
yeah.
This is fantastic. I'll have to
Totally.
talk to her. And then I have my work vest over here and my wife's plant over here because that's all my office consists of.
I mean, if you see me, I've got literally 3 plants behind me, and none of those are mine.
Yeah.
I'm not that decorative.
I can't keep them alive, so.
No, yeah. I actually used to have one of these hanging plants up here that I was supposed to take care of, and it died in like a month. And apparently that's like one of the easiest plants to take care of. So, yeah. So I gathered you guys here today. Really, it was Brian's doing. He really wanted Matt on the show, and I wanted Matt on the show too. So I was like, heck yeah, let's do it. And we were gonna talk about James Bond, a little bit of Daniel Craig James Bond, because if we hadn't been in this quarantine, this crazy world of 2020, we would have already had a new Bond movie this year. But now it looks like, I think this last week they said that it's going to be delayed until April. So this video is kind of irrelevant, but it's not irrelevant for us. We're going to be talking about all the Daniel Craig Bond movies, which one is our favorite. We're going to rank them. We're going to talk about the villains, which one's the best villain, and then just overall best moment from the Daniel Craig ones. So Brian, you've been watching all these recently. Did you want to kick us off with possibly your which one did I say we were going to go with again?
Let's go ahead and start off with best Daniel Craig Bond moment. Because watching through the films, there's always that like one moment that you're like, yes, that is perfect. That is, because it's really those little moments that takes it from spy thriller to 007 James Bond film. Oh my gosh, like Daniel Craig does an amazing job with the role, just even through all the films, the good and the bad. It's my personal favorite actually came from Quantum of Solace, where he is there's like a play that's going on that he infiltrated, and he had to like take out like one of the guys that got one of the gift bags, and was a secret auction that was going on during this play. So I still just remember Daniel Craig is getting into position after getting one of those headsets, knocking a dude out. He's sitting up there and he's looking out, and there's just this one moment where somebody is about to find him out and everything, but they haven't gotten down to like identifying who is part of this organization that he's trying to track. And there's just a point where he's like, may I chime in for a second? I think you guys need to have a better meeting spot. but people just pop up left and right and they start booking it out. So he's just like, okay, got your face. It's like such a fantastic moment, and there's just something about that just really screamed James Bond.
Yeah.
And later on, you guys will see why it's kind of funny that I picked that moment, but that was like, I just watched it and I just thought it was great. It was amazing.
Yeah, no, honestly, Quantum of Solace is pretty forgettable for me as a movie, as we'll see in my ranking video, or my rankings. But that scene, you just brought that back to me because I hadn't seen it in a long time, and that's a really great one.
Oh my gosh.
It's a good one because, like Brian, I think you hit it spot on in the sense that like James Bond, like the character itself is a spy that kind of like in some sense like doesn't take himself like super seriously. Like he does, but he doesn't, right? Like so he's like he plays that unconventional role where he's I mean if you want to think about it in like a really weird way, he's like an alcoholic, but
Total alcoholic.
but he's like, he's like not really afraid to die. And so he's kind of just like, okay, like we're going to try something. But one of my favorite moments is when he meets Blofeld and the like Spectre organization for the first time, like when he infiltrates them in the same kind of manner. Like he comes in, he just like walks up to the door, like pretends like he knows the password, and then like goes in, and like everybody already knows that he's there, and then he has to run away, and freaking whatever Drax or whatever chases him in the car afterwards. But yeah, that like same idea of just like he like just doesn't care, or like I think the first movie he just calls himself James Bond even though they're undercover, and he's like, they already know that we're here, they already know that I'm here, it doesn't matter, like we just have to play it this way kind of a thing.
Really quick, to chime on in with the Spectrum scene, I believe it was "Who are you?" And he's like, "I'm effing Mickey Mouse," he says in the other language. And then they were just like really confused by that, and he just walked on in.
Yeah.
That's definitely totally a James Bond move right there.
That sounds like a Brian Sorensen move.
Oh, I wish. No, Brian Sorensen move would be, "Can I please come on in? I got the ring. I swear I'm part of you guys."
I mean, okay, so I guess I'm next. My moment is way less cool than your guys's, but it's got to be in the first movie whenever he's being tortured, and he is just loving it. And he never breaks. He never, gives up the information, and he just he kind of mocks the guy while he's doing unimaginable beatings to him. I'll leave it at that for our younger audience. But yeah, I love that. I love how smug he is in that scene, and that solidified him as Bond for me. And then at the end of that, when I think right at like the last scene of the movie, he says Bond, James Bond, and it kind of like goes in and it creates him as the next Bond that we got. So that was really, to me, the best moments, and I love that movie so much.
Yeah.
If I may throw in an additional one in there really quick too, in Casino Royale, there's a scene where they ask him what he would like to have to drink, and of course he says a martini, and they're like, shaken or stirred? And then he's like, do I look like I give a damn?
Yeah.
They wheel it back, and like later on in like Spectrum, that like he does the classic shaken not stirred. But it's like Daniel Craig, just what he does with the character is just like so, he's like charming, but in a different way than we've seen in previous like James Bond films. You definitely got away from the Sean Connery, which is fantastic. They did an excellent job with that. So yeah.
For sure.
So good.
So our next topic is ranking the main villains. Brian, do you want to go first on this one again? I know for me, my list is going to correlate pretty similarly with my ranking of the actual movies themselves. No spoilers, though. They might differ a little bit. We'll see.
Well, the one thing I would have to say is that watching through all the movies again, it definitely gives you like a better like feel for like the villains and such, and that definitely helped me realize that I did like some villains more than others. But kind of, if we look at the four main villains, we got like I'm pretty sure I'm gonna butcher like some of these names, but we got Le Chiffre or whatever, the guy that has the bleeding tears, right? So you got him in Casino Royale. You got Dominic Green. You got Raul Silva, and then of course the Blofeld, the big one right there. So if you're looking at those four, I would have to say Dominic Green was like the worst. Period. Like he was too normal. So he's number 4 for me. There's just no getting around it. There's a part where he's like flailing around with the axe, and it just, I felt like a child could have done better than what he was doing. But
Not very menacing.
yeah, and honestly, I just felt like there were so many other evil people that were just outshining him. Like, you kind of just like watch and you're like, I'm sorry, I'm not scared of you. So then I would have to go with Le Chiffre or Le Feu. Good thing oh man, pronunciation of names, it's fantastic. But he would have to be my next one because once again, he just kind of gets overshadowed because he's like more scared and all that. But I thought his performance overall for what he was doing was great. So it's nothing against like the actor and what he did with the role, but I just didn't feel like he was as strong as a villain as he could have been if he was kind of like more of the mastermind. He was kind of more of the prey, which excellent, but he just wasn't a villain for me. And then Blofeld, only because though he was the big one, I just feel like just not enough scenes in his in the movie with that they're like, oh yeah, here's the guy. And I'll get into more of why once we talk into the rankings, why he is a little bit lower on the list. And then of course Mr. Silva, like, oh gosh, he just gave me goosebumps like, especially his intro. If it wasn't for that intro, he might have been kind of like tied, but something about everything about him when he's describing where his like kind of like origin story, oh, just so good.
Yeah.
That's where I'm at.
Yeah.
Matt, what about you?
Yeah, no. I had a little bit of a different view. So like, I agree for sure, and I'm pretty sure all of us agree that Dominic Green is definitely at the bottom of the list. I like literally can't remember. Like you said, Sean, like I can barely remember that movie. I think it was like in the middle of the writer's strike or something. Cause like, yeah, they just did like I almost pretend like that movie doesn't exist except for like the beginning scene that just like transitions Casino Royale and like finishes it with him catching what's his face and then kind of going on, sort of a thing. But yeah. Then I actually ranked Blofeld 3rd. Is it Blofeld?
Yeah, but you got it. Well, we know.
It's our favorite German man. That's
yeah. Like I like I always forget his name, but I like the actor. I think he does a really, really good job in a lot of the movies that he's been in. But I just feel like they were like, for his character, it was essentially like they were trying to make this like menacing background evil villain that had been, like Brian said, kind of coming through the movies. This is the big bad. This is the guy at the end. This is the the one we found, kind of a thing. But instead of like a Thanos type reveal, it just kind of ended up being like oh, okay, like, yeah, this guy, another villain, cool. But he didn't, I don't think he didn't feel like super differentiated from anything beyond the fact that he's like, spoiler alert, like Step Brothers with James Bond. Like, I was like, okay, cool. So yeah, you're kind of not really related. Okay, whatever. But it wasn't like they're not like matched. It's not like they're like physically the same, or I don't know. You couldn't ask James Bond to like not just like punch him in the face, that kind of a thing. And then I actually I have Silva or Jaws for Skyfall as actually second. And the reason for that is like I think his character was super cool because it kind of brought back a little bit of like, okay, cool, this is kind of a flashback type, a pretend sort of version of that character from the past, Jaws, in some of the earlier movies. And then also he fit very well, like Brian said, he had a cool origin story. It was like a classical kind of Bond villain type person. The reason I ranked Le Chiffre first, actually, versus Brian's third, is I actually liked like exactly what you said, Brian. Like, I loved the fact that Le Chiffre was like the bottom guy on the totem pole. Like he was freaked out the whole movie, right? Like it wasn't this like master plan that like so many of the movies fall into that, where it's like, well, this guy's like a super evil genius and he has this master plan, and no matter like how ridiculous it kind of gets, it was all in his plan in the original like first step kind of a thing with sort of like Skyfall or Spectre. But then like Le Chiffre is just like falling with the punches. He's like, okay, what other evil thing can I try to figure out to do to try to cover my butt on this stuff? Like, what am I, I guess I'm gonna go take money from these guys in Africa, and oh no, now they want to kill me. Like, I need to rig this whole like casino game and like figure out how we're gonna play poker and try to win this whole thing so I can get the money back. So like in my mind, he just seemed so realistic that I was like, I love his villain, and he never seemed overly menacing or overly like characterized. It was just like, yeah, this, like, I could believe that this is a real bad person somewhere in the world that like a spy is hunting down. And so like that, I think, really encapsulated why I liked him the most, actually, which surprised me.
That was a great list, man. And I pretty much am going to agree with you on all your points. I mean, getting mine out of the way, though, Mr. Green, he's gone. Quantum of a forgettable movie, like I said, and I don't even know, like, he just was an oil man or something. Like, I can't really remember. So he made
a purchase of water to
fact check.
Yeah, to make sure that the people, when they have water, to sell to them for a higher amount. I'm still a little bit confused on that too, and I just watched it like twice or something like that. Oof.
But yeah, like Matt said, this movie was made during the writer's strike. I guess Daniel Craig even wrote some of the lines for the movies, and he even he's like, I'm not a writer, so this is not like, he's a good actor. He'll stay in that lane, but not the writer. And then second, I have the villain from Spectre. What was his name again, Brian?
Let's see. It is Blofeld. Blofeld or something like that.
So the problem with Spectre for me is just that it didn't feel like the organization and, like the hype of him was earned. Just because if they had like sprinkled it through the rest of the movies, I know they kind of do callbacks of how he was pulling the strings, but if we would have gotten more of like a solid piece of Spectre in some of the other movies, or maybe like even like a callback to Bond's childhood or whatever, then I would have liked him more. But like Matt said, like, we didn't get that like Thanos earned villainy pulling the strings from behind the curtain. So that's just why he's lower on my list. And then, man, I guess average minds think alike, Matt, because I gotta go Silva for second as the runner-up. Brian, you had him at the number 1 spot, and while he is menacing, he is awesome. I love that actor. No Country for Old Men. He played a better villain, in my opinion. But I just got to give the top spot to Lashif, man. I think, like Matt said, he's just the most grounded villain. It's a different take on Bond villains because, you know, in the growing up, you got like the over-the-top villains that have some evil plan and are disfigured and all that, which looks like they might be going back to in the newest movie coming out here. But I liked the grounded villainy of Lashif, and the whole casino thing was awesome. The poisoning was awesome, and the torture scene. I mean, maybe I'm just weird, but I have to give it to him. He's the top villain.
It was definitely a very unique form of torture. I vividly remember it.
Vividly. I had nightmares about it.
Yeah.
Oh, man. All right, so closing it out, we are going to do another ranking, but just overall what we ranked as the Daniel Craig Bond films so far from worst to best. And Brian, you want to start us out again?
Sure, I'll start us off. Okay, so I would have to start off. What? We're gonna start off with Quantum again? What?
What?
Gosh.
No love for that movie at all.
For some reason, the writer's block and all that. But let's just really quick flip it around onto like the good parts. The reason why this is on the bottom, which of course is like the whole entire 3/4 of the movie that was probably all not written out, not planned out or anything, and it could have had more to that I wish that we could have got that made Casino Royale so good. But I would have to put that one back because of the pure fact that it had such an amazing start and then it just stuttered out. So like you said before, Matt, the whole entire lead into the other thing, and then Mr. White also too. He played such an important part in Skyfall as well that it just, in Spectrum as well. Then it just helps out the whole entire series as well. So as much as we want to forget that one, maybe just watch the first 20 minutes of it, just so that way you can get that intro scene, and then you can forget about the rest. Just know there was a guy named Mr. Green, and he got killed at one point, and he was part of this larger organization, because that's when they kind of first, you get a little bit of the organization at the end of Casino Royale, and then they bring them back in at the beginning of Quantum. So it definitely affects my rating for the other ones coming up, though. So next up, then, I will have to go with Spectrum, because though I do love how it does the tie-in, it definitely didn't do as well as it should have. Blofeld, I give him credit for all the messed up stuff that happened in the other movies. So that's definitely why I give him more credit as a master villain, because I'm like, okay, if I was an evil villain and I got this girl killed off, well, that might have been a lot to really piss off this one guy. Oh, sorry. Blur that out if you want or anything. But yeah, he went a lot to really get at James Bond, and just really felt like you could have gone a whole lot of a different route than to do this. But hey, whatever, it works out. So the plot itself altogether was kind of a little bit loose, but I did like the idea of the organization that is kind of pulling the strings. And actually in Quantum, Mr. White says at the beginning, here we are, we're freaking out, thinking, oh, they're right behind us, they're going to know what's happening. But they've been running around freely doing whatever the heck they want. And that's what makes Spectrum kind of creepy. But still, it's like you guys said, there's not enough going on with that. So Spectrum, number 3. Number 2. Now this one's a hard one.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to say Skyfall. Oh, and I know, my favorite villain is in Skyfall, but I just felt like while going through it, if I didn't understand what James Bond and M's relationship was, then it's so easy to get yourself lost in it. It's not like a James Bond film that you can pick up and you can just like watch. You need to understand the series in a little bit, but it's so dang good because of the like the villain is fantastic. The story behind it is great. It has all sorts of espionage going on, and it brings in this feeling of James Bond is getting older and he's not able to do what he used to be able to do. Which once again, going back over to Spectrum, that's why that one got knocked down for me, because before James Bond was falling apart and now he's just fine in the next film. It's kind of a little bit weird. But
Yeah.
Skyfall, I think, was a very good film because it's once again bringing Bond into more of the human side. He's not invincible. And then, of course, lastly, that leaves Casino Royale. Casino Royale is just fantastic. Daniel Craig does an amazing job in the role of James Bond, and just really bringing a new twist to that role. Oh gosh, there's so many parts that just made him human, made him very, like the first like chase scene, for instance, too. He didn't exactly do everything like how you would think, like, oh, he's going to do some acrobatic stuff or anything like that. Most of the time is, oh, wow, look at that guy go. Well, I guess I'm just going to take the elevator down. I believe it was like a lift that he just ends up shooting out and stuff like that. Oh, gosh, it's just so, like, it just shows how clever that he was. So they did a really good job on writing his role, but also Daniel Craig's performance is phenomenal. Like, if you're going to get into any James Bond for your first time, that's one I would say. Watch Casino Royale. So good.
It's like I saw it in the theaters yesterday, man. I still remember that.
Oh, so good.
All right, Matt.
Oh man, no, I definitely echo a lot of what Brian said. You know, Quantum Solace definitely number 4. I don't even need to talk about that, I don't think, anymore.
If you can remember, right?
yeah, exactly. I'd say Spectre is my number 3, and then definitely this is where it gets tough, right? Skyfall or Casino Royale, and I keep going back and forth. Like, I was thinking about this a lot today, actually, and I think I have to agree with you, Brian. I think that, you know, if I just want to, like, or if somebody just wants to pick up a Bond movie, watch it through and understand, okay, like, these are the things, and yet, like, still experience something, I think, a lot different than some of the earlier Bond movies, I think Casino Royale would have to be my number 1, and Skyfall would have to be my number 2. The only reason, like, I go back and forth and, like, almost, like, keep them pretty tied at, like, number 1 in my head is because they both do a very similar thing, right? They have the relationship that James Bond has in the first movie, and then they also have M, obviously now in the third movie, and they play with it enough that, like, okay, we're going to kill these pretty major characters off, technically, though we could consider, you know, Casino Royale and his gal, I always forget her name, but
yeah,
in the first one, as maybe not as of a major character. So that's where, like, I can go back and forth on Skyfall, is like this was 3 movies in. Technically for her it was like 4 or 5 movies in, because she was in the James Bonds with Pierce. Yeah, and so, you know, how do you knock that character out? But yeah, I think I put Casino as number 1 and Skyfall as number 2, and I think it does match a little bit, obviously, with my villain ranking as well. But yeah, tough one.
Man. All right, I'm not gonna waste too much time here, because Quantum Solace 4, Spectre is 3. I think that's a general consensus. Yeah. And then I have respect for both Skyfall and Casino Royale, but I'm going to have to agree with you guys. I mean, we all got them ranked the same. Skyfall is great. It really was a really great send-off for M. And I loved that they brought Q back into it. He was great. I loved the dynamic between him and Bond, you know, the young and the old generation. all of that was great. But I have to give the top spot to Casino Royale. Just like you guys said, it was a perfect point that you can just jump into this, just pure Bond movie. And you don't have to be super invested with the rest of the Bond legacy. You can just watch this as a standalone movie, and it works perfectly. It really brought the franchise back because while I loved the Pierce Brosnan ones as a kid, now I don't love them much. And Daniel Craig, I had never heard of him before this, but man, he did an awesome job. So I'm going to have to agree with you guys. Wow, we all had the same list. It's kind of anticlimactic. But I'm going to throw in an extra question before we leave. So there's rumors that Tom Hardy is going to take the new Bond role. What do you guys think about this?
Man, I guess the question would be like, okay, if they're throwing him in, are they going to try to, like, is the number being reassigned or something like that? Like, if that's the case, I guess it could work because then you're saying that's something completely different. Oh, little guy behind me. Fantastic.
Getting spied on.
We have an intruder.
Yeah. Give me just a few minutes, okay? That is so cute.
You want
Okay.
the next James Bond?
So I picked that guy actually for the next James Bond. He has a lot of class and everything. He's great.
Nice.
But
Wow.
but yeah, I think it could work out. Like, everyone thought Daniel Craig was going to be a terrible James Bond because he blonde hair, blue eyes. That's not James Bond. But look we got something amazing. To follow up after Daniel Craig's performance, I think it's going to be really hard, and his will probably be a lot more light humor, which is, like we said, something that's part of the James Bond, but like the awesomeness of James Bond. But it's how they're going to spin it. Like, I can't honestly. I don't think that he's going to be as good as Daniel Craig. Daniel Craig has set a new standard, and what we want for a James Bond, it's Dark Knight all over again. It's hard to fill in those shoes.
Yeah. Matt, what you think?
Yeah, no, I agree with Brian. I think, like when I heard the rumor about Tom Hardy, I go back and forth. I thought, I was one of the people that heard Heath Ledger is going to be the Joker. What? Why? Like, this is weird. Robert Pattinson's going to be Batman. And now, like, though I haven't seen the new Batman, like, even just seeing the trailer.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. I'm like, okay, I can believe this. Like, I'm all in on Robert now. But, like things like that, where you also then have the reverse of that, Ben Affleck's going to be Batman. Okay, cool. And that didn't work. So, like, I think I can trust, whoever makes these fancy decisions that I don't actually get to be a part of.
Yeah.
But I think, Sean, you and I mentioned it before. Like, I would love, Idris Elba to do it. I think that would be a really cool, just like change on the character.
Yeah.
Trying something different. Just like what Brian said, like, I think you can get stuck in, now people have this new expectation for Bond. And in all honesty, like I said, the character has always been this kind of like alcoholic that like hangs out with a lot of ladies and does some spy stuff.
Shake hands.
Yeah, and it's like we're like kind of getting out of that era of those are like quote unquote cool things.
Yeah.
Like, and so I don't know, like I read an article recently that said something about how Daniel Craig essentially said that he wasn't going to agree to any James Bond unless they let him do the character the way he wanted to do it, which was going to be different.
Yeah.
And I'm glad they did, because it worked, right? And I hope that whoever they do pick says something similar or is committed to doing something similar to make it their own and not like get back into either trying to imitate Daniel Craig or trying to imitate the Bonds previous. Like, whoever does it in the future, they need to take it their own way, or we just need to wait like 5 years, like just shut down James Bond for 5 years and then reboot it and kick it off again, just like we did the last time, and then there will be enough excitement behind it. I think you can kind of do that, but I don't know.
That's all great points. Yeah. Tom Hardy's a great actor. You know, he's got some hits, some like hard hits and some misses for me. I just, if it's something that's like Inception, possibly, but if he's just mumbling the whole time, like he's been doing in a lot of his movies lately, I don't know. But it's an interesting pick for sure. It's not he was not on my list for a James Bond. Like I really was hoping Idris Elba would get it, but that didn't happen. Apparently, one of our friends told us that he didn't want to just because you'd be typecast as James Bond for, you know, like that'd be your career. And he just wants to stick with doing newer characters that don't have such a legacy holding them back, you know, which is kind of hard, like you were saying, because inevitably they're gonna do callbacks to the old Bond movies, just like they did in these ones with all the movies. Like they called back to the different generations. Sean Connery, especially with
the car,
Aston Martin. Yeah.
Oh gosh, yes.
But I mean, I'm excited, cautiously optimistic, I'd say.
Yeah.
If he even gets it, this is just like a huge rumor right now. So we'll see if it actually happens. But yep. Well, cool.
So wait, are you telling me that you didn't watch Venom and said that guy's going to be James Bond? I know that.
I mean, while I like Venom just because I like the character, the movie is very flawed. And yeah, I would not say that is what sold me on him as Bond. But anyways, thank you guys so much for joining today. Matt, it was awesome to see you. I hope you come on for more videos possibly. Brian, as always, thank you. Do you guys have anything else you wanted to say before we end this thing?
No, thank you, Sean. Thank you, Brian. Love talking with you guys. Miss seeing you guys. So it's good to catch up.
Yep. All right. Well, I'll end it and we can talk more after it's done recording if you guys want. But anyways, well, thank you guys so much for joining today. It means so much. We're approaching a year on this channel from a distance. So I'm sure me and Brad are going to do something special for that here in the next few weeks. Tell us what you thought about all the different Daniel Craig Bond movies down below in the comments. Like and subscribe if you want to, and we'll see you next time, but only from a distance.
Socially.